The Rams are set to interview this top defensive coordinator candidate, and he's number one on my list. That's coming up next here on Locked On Rams.
You are Locked On Rams, your daily Los Angeles Rams podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, Ramley, and welcome to another episode of Locked On Rams, your daily podcast covering your Los Angeles Rams. Free and available wherever you get your podcasts. Locked On Rams, part of Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. We're also available over on YouTube, so if you haven't yet, do us a huge favor. Hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell, hit that like button, and also drop your questions down below. We're going to do a mailbag episode. We're going to be dropping on Friday. I've already seen you guys dropping questions down below in the comment section. Got a comment, by the way, Travis, from the Rod Boys 2637. Thank you, D-Mac and Travis. You guys made my season even better than it was. I'm an everydayer and always will be for as long as you young gentlemen keep on keeping on. Much love and respect from Anaheim. So getting a lot of love in the comments out there for us young men. So that's what I'm talking about.
Anybody that calls me a young man I'm a huge fan of that guy because I haven't been a young man for a long time. So thank you. Appreciate it.
Man, I know you get carded when you go get a Modelo's. I mean, come on now.
Exactly.
But we appreciate all the kind words down below in the comment section. Like I said, most importantly, drop those comments down below as far as the questions you want to see us have on our mailbag episode. My name is Doug McCain. You can follow me on X and Instagram at DMAC_LA. We're covering LA sports for over a decade, 24/7 sports, SI, Dodgers Nation. Now the Rams 4 Locked On. And as always, I'm joined by the People's Champ, Mr. Travis Rogers. He, of course, is the Rams pre-half and post-game show host for the Rams flagship radio station, ESPN 710 LA. He just finished his 8th season covering your Los Angeles Rams. You can follow him on X at Travis Rogers. And on today's episode, we are going to ask some of the big offseason questions. Will Aaron Donald be back? What is his status? We got a big update on the defensive coordinator hiring. What does that status hold? We're going to talk about that. And also, the Rams losing so many coaches this season. Who outside of Raheem Morris will have the biggest impact? But first, this episode of Locked On Rams brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. Right now, new customers get $200 in bonus bets if your first bet of $5 or more wins. Visit FanDuel.com/LockedOnNFL to get started. So, Travis, we're going to start with AD, Aaron Donald, and he put together another fantastic year, had a PFF grade of 90.8. He's never had a PFF grade under 90 for his entire career. He's been elite, 91.5 pass rush grade, 84 total pressures, 60 hurries, 14 hits, 10 sacks, first team All-Pro. Big question is, what's his status? Is he going to be back next season? I think that all indications are yes, but until we hear from him, Aaron Donald's a very year-to-year player at this point, in my opinion.
Yeah, a couple of things here. I like how you kind of laid that out, D-Mac, because, let's go to another local team here in Los Angeles. Let's talk about the Lakers for a second. And everything has been kind of the center of their universe has been LeBron James for the last several seasons. And it's all about maximizing the time that you have with LeBron James, surrounding him with other great players while he is still a great player. Obviously, LeBron is closing in on 40, and Aaron Donald has a long way to go before he gets there. But the sentiment, I think, is exactly the same. Like, you have not just a good player or even just a great player. You have one of the great players of all time, which you just laid out. This is somebody that is not just the best at his position now. He might be the greatest player to have played that position in the entire history of the NFL. And those guys don't come around very often. You have one. So you need to surround him with the right guys so you can go and try to maximize the time that you have left with him. They've done a good job of that. They won a Super Bowl a couple of years ago. They put around some very good players on the defensive side of the ball this year. I think that's why he is incredibly likely to be on the team next year. I would be like, a couple of years ago, after the Super Bowl, after a 5-12 season, then maybe you're like, okay, I don't know. I mean, it's a violent game, and I'm sure it hurts on Monday morning to come out of that and feel a certain way. And Aaron Donald's made a lot of money, and I'm sure he has other things, to go back to Pittsburgh and things that he'd like to do. But he's on a good team again. Let's go back to what he said at the beginning of last season when he was asked about whether or not he wanted to participate in a defense that was going to be retooled, if not completely rebuilt on the fly. And he told Les Snead and Sean McVay, just get guys that care and I'm good. And they did, and he was. And I think that that's kind of re-energizing. I think we've talked a lot about Sean McVay and how he was re-energized this most recent season and kind of rediscovered his joy of coaching and what it all meant. And I think you could say something very similar about Aaron Donald and how he approached last season and what he's looking forward to moving forward.
Yeah, exactly. And that's really one of the big reasons why I wanted to bring up this topic is, yes, I think he's going to be back. He has one more year on his contract. I think that the assumption is he'll be back. There's no doubt about it. But why is he going to be back, not only in the NFL, but with the Rams, is because they showed a lot of promise last year. You had Kobe Turner, who as a rookie, he did care. He cared to the point where he was one of the best rookie defenders in the league, and they formed a dynamic duo in the interior. Now, I will say, Eric Henderson leaving for USC, it was very close with him. He was so close to me. He wore a USC t-shirt on his social to kind of just give him a shout out. Also, he had a strong bond with Raheem Morris. So there is going to be turnover. And I think that he's probably going to tell the ownership, just bring in a coordinator that cares, right? And then he'll go out there and play some football. So I think it's not only that he's going to finish his career, he's going to be 33. He's only 33, right? But let's say they had a terrible year last year. The defense showed no signs of promise. They won 4 or 5 games. Maybe he would finish his career, but it wouldn't be with the Rams. So that's why it was so pivotal to have a big bounce back year in 2023.
Yeah, I think you're right that when you are as accomplished and decorated as a player as Aaron Donald is, the last thing you want is to just play out the string on a team that, you know, is going to win 4 or 5 or 6 games. That doesn't sound interesting to anybody. I think that if we're looking at this in a positive perspective, change in the NFL is constant, right? You don't play for the same position coach for 10 years in a row. You don't play for the same defensive coordinator for 10 years in a row. You probably don't even play for the same head coach for more than 4 or 5 years in a row, except for in extraordinary circumstances. And I think the Rams are in extraordinary circumstances with Sean McVay. I think he's going to be here for as long as you can forecast this thing out, as long as he would like to be here. But, you know, while maybe you don't love seeing Raheem Morris and some other position coaches leave, I think that as a pro and as somebody that's been in the NFL for as long as Aaron Donald has, you understand that that's the business of this league. Guys move on. I'm sure that he would love to play for Raheem Morris another season, but he also understands that this is an opportunity that Morris had to jump on, and he understands it and he lives with it. And, you know, I go back to what Raheem Morris told me about Aaron Donald. I say, no, what do you do about him? And his entire thing was, you just put guys like that in a position to do what they do. Don't overthink it too much. Just put them in a place where they can be at their absolute best. Give them the tools they need to succeed. And I think that's a great way to look at it. So whoever gets that job next, put Aaron Donald in a position to succeed and just get the heck out of his way.
Absolutely. And I think, too, the fact that he is a made man, his legacy is cemented. He's a first ballot Hall of Famer. He's a walking statue, 8-time first team All-Pro. I mean, 10-time Pro Bowler. I mean, we could spend a whole hour listing off his accomplishments. To me, that's a big factor as well, is that he has the Super Bowl ring, he has Lombardi Trophy, he has the Hall of Fame sewn up. He's in the conversation for one of the best defenders, one of the best players in NFL history. So I think at this point, he just enjoys playing football. And that's why he's been so good for so long on a snap-by-snap basis, on a preparation basis. He loves the process of being an NFL player. And that's when the great ones sustain their career, when they're still willing to go through the grind. I don't think that he's shown any signs of slowing down.
And think of this, too, right? Hold on. That's me knocking on wood. He's never been hurt. He takes good care of his body, right? Aaron Donald doesn't get in shape. He stays in shape. He looks like the Incredible Hulk. He's not one of these guys that, oh, look at Aaron Donald, man. He's been in the gym this offseason. He always looks like that. And he's always looked like that. And he continues to prepare like that. So I do think that he's one of those outliers that can continue to play at an incredibly high level, way past a point where most people can't, because he takes such good care of himself. And he's been lucky. He's been lucky to not have that thing happens that happens to so many football players, where you get an injury that just kind of alters the course of the trajectory of your career. And to this point so far, and again, he's been very lucky.
Bruce Banner and football cleats. And I think that he also plays a very pivotal role for the Rams this offseason, because if I'm a defensive coordinator out there and I'm looking at this Rams roster, I would love a chance to be his coordinator. Who could that coordinator be? That's coming up next on Locked On Rams.
Passion, drive, and patience are what bring home the winning trophy, and it's also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything that you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance, from superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and a whole lot more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has got you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you will always find exactly what you're looking for, And with eBay's Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time, or your money back. You can't beat that, because with eBay Motors, you are burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at all the prices you want, it's easy to turn your car into the MVP and bring home that win. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit only available to U.S. customers.
And we're off running here on Locked On Rams. Think of being Locked On Rams, your first listen every single weekday, free and available wherever you get your podcasts. Locked On Rams, part of Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Also, a big shout out to our everyday listeners out there. We appreciate you watching and listening all off season long, following your Los Angeles Rams. And you can be an everyday listener too. Membership is 100% free, and you won't miss a thing about your Los Angeles Rams. Also, a reminder that Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube. Locked On Sports Today. It's here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with the local experts of Locked On, plus our national shows covering every league. Go to Locked On Sports Today on YouTube and subscribe to the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel. Go check out Locked On Dodgers, Locked On Lakers, Locked On Clippers, Locked On Chargers. Lots of really awesome shows out there. But Travis, here in our second segment, we got a little update on the open DC position. ESPN's Adam Schefter reported that the Rams would be interviewing Baltimore Ravens defensive backs coach Dennard Wilson for their open defensive coordinator position. And for me, he's right there at the top. He might even be my number one guy at this point, because the Ravens, the success that they had with their defense, particularly how good their secondary was. Last year, DVOA had the Ravens as the 12th best defense of all time. Of course, they fell short in the championship game to get to the Super Bowl, but still, I think Dennard Wilson would make a great defensive coordinator for the Rams.
Yeah, so you mentioned the thing that I find most interesting, too, is that I like where guys come from. I like what they've been around. And you mentioned, obviously, that the pedigree that you get when you coach for the Baltimore Ravens, it's not unlike what the Chargers did earlier this week when they named Joe Horitz their new general manager. When you're around winning, you learn winning. When you're around success, you learn success. You pick up habits on how to do things that you don't unlearn when you go to a new place. And I think when you combine the two things together, when you have a winning culture like Baltimore clearly does, when there's a level of expectation of anything less than the best is not good enough, and then you go to another place like the Los Angeles Rams that has the exact same expectation, there isn't a steep learning curve to that. I'm walking from one excellently run organization into another. It's very, very appealing. And, oh, by the way, his secondary was really, really good. So it's a perfect combination of the proof is in the pudding on the field, and just, culturally, I think it fits. Even if the culture is different, it's not different in the expectation. It's not different in the, we are here to win Super Bowls. Anything less than that is looked at as unsuccessful. The Baltimore Ravens look at it like that. I believe the Los Angeles Rams look at it like that. And I think that could potentially be a very good fit.
Absolutely. Winners win, baby. And I totally agree with that. I mean, especially when guys are peaking at the right time. You want to get guys when they're ascending in their careers. And that's exactly what he's doing. There's a lot of teams that are after him. A lot of teams want him as their DC. Now, it's interesting because, of course, he did have some time with the Rams earlier in the Jeff Fisher era. And then when Sean McVay took over, he didn't retain him. But that's not outside the norm. That almost always happens. So that really wouldn't preclude the Rams from bringing him in. But I love what you said right there. And that's one of the biggest reasons why I want him as the Rams DC is what he did with that Ravens secondary. They had the number one secondary in the NFL in Baltimore last season. At a pass defense DVOA of minus 28.8%, a lot of 75.9 passer rating. You saw what he did with players in his career, guys like Darius Slay, James Bradbury, CJ Gardner-Johnson, all of his former players, especially guys in the secondary, talk about how great of a coach he is.
Yeah, look, like you said, this is somebody that not only seems to fit the idea of what you want, but he actually has results that you can point to and say, these are the guys that I've coached. This is what they were before I was there. This is what they were there once I had my hands on them for a season or more. It's incredibly exciting, and I agree with what you're saying. Just because he had been in the Rams organization before, prior to Sean McVay, that doesn't mean a whole heck of a lot to me, because the Rams under McVay and this era of Rams football is far different than the eras preceding it, and certainly far different than the Jeff Fisher era, which was, the head coach is going to set the tone. The head coach is going to be the guy that develops the culture, and Jeff Fisher had a specific type of culture, and Sean McVay has a very different type of culture. And I'm sure that coming in, he wanted to establish that, and getting rid, or maybe not even getting rid of, but just opting to go in a different direction in some spaces is pretty typical, especially for a young coach. And, to double back on somebody like Wilson, I think is a smart thing. And if he like I've said a million times, if Sean McVay likes it, I love it.
1,000 million %. I mean, if he loves it, if he wants to make this hire, that would tell me everything I need to know. But as far as I hear a lot of Rams fans out there, fans that weren't as high on Raheem Morris, they didn't like the bend but don't break style, right? They didn't like the Fangio style. They wanted more aggression. Well, if you look at Wilson, he's someone that he's molded by Bowles and Williams. Now, Bowles is someone who does a lot of pre-snap formations, pre-snap movements to try to flummox the quarterback. And Williams is someone who's been very hyper-aggressive at points throughout his career. So he's really a hybrid as far as defensive approach. And you see the formations. I mean, the Ravens, they play their snaps, nickel package a lot in the 2-4-5. So really interesting what they did on defense. But also, I want to throw this one at you, Travis. Look at the success he had against teams that the Rams could face next season, not just in the regular season, but in the playoffs. Last year, Ben Johnson, right? Everyone's Ben Johnson's very high. The Ravens held that Lions offense to 6 points. Goff didn't throw a touchdown that game. Brock Purdy did not throw a touchdown pass. He threw 4 interceptions. So in 2 games, the Ravens, they played C.J. Stroud. He didn't throw a touchdown pass. So they shut down some offenses that were prolific, and I think that you got those in the Niners and the Lions that could be contenders next season in the NFC.
Say no more, right? I mean, let's go. What are we waiting for? Let's bring them in. I love that. I love that against the Lions, who they're going to play in the regular season, might see in the postseason. We know that they're going to play the Niners twice next season. You might have to play them in the postseason. I am sold. I am 100% sold on this. And like you said a second ago, a different flavor of ice cream, right? It's just a much more aggressive style. Just purely aesthetically, fun to watch, right? That what the Rams did defensively was more, okay, hold on. Okay, there's the stop, get the ball back, as opposed to attack. It'll be a very different stylistic thing to look at if that's in fact where they go. I'm in. I'm sold. You sold me, Doug.
I'm telling you, man, I did a little deep dive on my guy yesterday. I mean, just with the Jets, a lot of 3-4. I think you'll see a lot of that, but I still think this could be the dude. But he's not the only dude they need to find, Travis. There's some other coaching spots, other vacancies they need to fill along this coaching staff. And we're going to talk about those coming up next on Locked On Rams.
Happy Super Bowl to all who celebrate from FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Look, if you listen to this podcast, right, if you're talking about the Rams or any of the other NFL teams, you celebrate the Super Bowl, because Super Bowl Sunday is all about the day, right? It's about scoring the best seat on the couch, grabbing your favorite snacks, and of course, placing some super bets. For me, love the food. If you've listened to my radio show, you know how often I talk about what it is that we're eating, and Super Bowl Sunday might be the day where we eat the most. There's so many different things to talk about. You know what you can do to take it to the whole new level? FanDuel, right? FanDuel has so many ways that you can end the season with a W or 2 or 3. Not only can you bet on who will win Super Bowl 58, but FanDuel also has bets for which players will score a touchdown. Do you like McCaffrey? Do you like Patrick Mahomes? Do you like Isaiah Pacheco? How many points will be scored? Is this going to be an offensively dominated game? Is this going to be dominated by the Chiefs defense, who have held teams down pretty much all season long? And of course, you've got so much more. New customers, join today and you'll get $200 in bonus bets if your first bet of just $5 or more wins. So visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to sign up. That's FanDuel.com/lockedon. Make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL.
And welcome back to Locked On Rams. Thank you for making Locked On Rams your first listen every single weekday, free and available wherever you get your podcast. Locked On Rams, part of Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Now, Travis, here in our third segment, we're going to look at some of these vacancies that the Rams had because, like I said a couple of days ago, just hearing Sean McVay in his end-of-the-year press conference talking about the continuity of this coaching staff. Well, things move quickly in the National Football League. Just to do a quick recap, Raheem Morris, defensive coordinator, he goes to the Falcons as a head coach. Zach Robinson, he takes over as the Falcons offensive coordinator. He was the passing game coordinator. By all accounts, he did a fantastic job in that role. Jimmy Lake, he had a short stint with the Rams. He was the assistant head coach. He's the Falcons DC. Eric Henderson, defensive line coach. He's the USC co-defensive coordinator, defensive line coach now. Jeremy Springer, the assistant special teams coordinator, he now has a job with the Patriots as the special teams coordinator. So you got some positions to fill. I think the one that really jumps out at me first, though, is Eric Henderson. Eric Henderson, like we talked about in the first segment, his relationship with Aaron Donald, his relationship with the players. He's not someone who's not just good as a player development type of coach, that you saw what he did with Kobe Turner, but also as a culture builder and helping Sean McVay instill that in this team.
Yeah, this is, going back to what we talked about at the very beginning, DMAC, this is life in the NFL. And this is life in the NFL in particular if you succeed. Guys want to just players turn around. The more you win, the more other people want your players. The more you win, the more other people want your assistant coaches. And, again, if you look at a guy like Henderson that you're talking about, and you had two rookies, not one, but two rookies who really made an impact in both Young and Turner, and you throw in one of the great players of all time at Aaron Donald, who continues to play at a high level that Donald did, that guy's as good as gone. You're not going to be able to keep a guy like that. I think that, again, if this is something that, if there's an upside to this, the Rams have had to do this before. It would be great to have nobody want your assistant coaches, nobody want your players, and just continue to roll it back. That only happens to bad teams. The Rams are not a bad team, and they get an opportunity to restock their cupboard every single year. What did you list off? 5 different guys right there that are gone. That's a lot. The special teams guy, he could probably go. You could probably drive him to the airport. But the rest of these guys, these are difficult guys to replace. Morris, Robinson, Lake, and Henderson in particular. Yeah,
absolutely. I mean, this is the sign of a fully functioning, successful organization. When your coaches get poached and it's poaching season and you're the team that's losing coaches, it usually means you had a good year. Well, guess what? The Rams did, by all accounts, have a good year. They exceeded expectations. They had 10 wins. They made the playoffs. So it's a little unexpected that Raheem Morris just said, okay, I'm just going to kind of gut his old team. I mean, it's very interesting, right? But it makes the most sense because these guys, they are getting promotions, right? They're getting jobs that they're after, but did not see this coming as quickly as it has. I mean, the Rams coaching staff, they look emptier than the shelves in the toilet paper aisle at the beginning of COVID. I mean, you look at that right there, it's just, there's a lot of work to do, but I think it's going to be okay. And look, it just makes you wonder, building on the momentum of last season, now it's going to feel like a whole new team from the coaching standpoint.
Yeah, it will. And I would go back to Rams fans, who were the coordinators on this team 4 years ago, right? Who were the position players, coaches on this team 4 years ago? You don't remember, right? And unless you are really dyed in it, this is life in the NFL. It turns over. They have the most important coach in the building already. They've got a young, dynamic head coach who has proven to be able to find guys to help him, to assist him in coordinator roles and position roles. If that was the job they were having to fill, it's a totally different conversation. But finding those secondary jobs, those coordinator jobs, the position jobs, it's something that only good teams have to deal with. And it's really good news. It's unfortunate because it means you did well and they're leaving. But at the end of the day, it means you're doing the right things.
It is. And I think it comes down to how is Sean McVay wired? He's not someone who's going to say, oh, I lost my coaches, this and that. He's someone who's going to look at this as an opportunity. There's a reason why millionaires make their millions back faster after they've lost millions, right? Because they know what they're doing. They know the process. And I have all the confidence in the world that he's going to pick the right guys and this team's going to pick up right where they left off. But it's just an extra added obstacle that I think that this team maybe saw coming, but I think as much, but still, This is an attractive location, an attractive city, an attractive organization. They're going to get some great pieces. But that's going to do it for this episode of Locked On Rams. My name is Doug McCain. You can follow me on X and Instagram at DMAC_LA. And as always, you can follow the People's Champ, Mr. Travis Rogers, on X at Travis Rogers. Until next time, whose house is Locked On Rams house?